but I just thought it was because it was hot weather.
Yeah.
So you don't want to bother people if you're swelling up, but when I knew when my head started to hurt and I was being sick, I was like, nah. So because the babies were so early, I didn't realise that a lot of people didn't know what I was talking about, but they put this magnesium sulfate through your body. And honestly, I cannot describe it as anything other than hell on earth burning through your body. Pre-eclampsia was just too far.
I think once obviously Davis hadn't grown either.
He hadn't grown either for about 3 weeks, so he was still very small.
Right, okay.
So I think they just decided between them all just enough's enough. But it's not always plain sailing. I remember that being pregnant, Matthew, stop being so negative. I said I have to be, because even though I'd prepared us to be in that situation, nothing really prepares you when you actually see it with your own eyes.
So is this Davis that we're actually joined with tonight?
Eliiot.
Eliiot. Well, great start to the podcast, to be honest with you. That was not ideal. So thank you very much for coming on, guys. I'm actually really surprised that you're here, in fact, with the amount of projects you've got on now. Having babies, building houses and all that sort of stuff. It's mental, but this is our first podcast back, so that might be a wee bit like rusty here and there, do you know what I mean? It's been like 6 months, but we're happy to have you as our first guests. And for anyone that doesn't know, we are joined by Kym and Matthew with an amazing story of actually giving birth prematurely to twins. Was it 27 weeks?
27 weeks.
27 weeks, that's actually unreal, honestly, unbelievable. Which, I mean, that's like 3 months early?
Well, just over 3 months.
Just over 3 months?
Just over, yeah.
Can you hear me okay when I speak?
No. Right, wait a minute. Do we need to sort out the audio slightly? Well, like I was saying, it was first one back, so there was definitely going to be technical issues, weren't there? Unbelievable. I turned everyone else down and just turned myself up. What does that say about me? Do you know what I mean?
The only person I could hear.
I can only hear myself and all, to be honest with you. Just the way I like it.
You definitely meant that, didn't you?
I meant it. I just turning everyone else down like that, you know. So yeah. Obviously, we've got Kym and Matthew here on, just going to obviously hear about the story and the journey that you of us went through. We've been kind of following a wee bit on your Instagram, the great Galvies, is it?
Yeah.
The great.
Yeah.
So
Who came up with that name?
That's a cracking name.
Me.
That's a good. I was thinking that. I was like, who actually came up with that? Because I was like, that is a cracking name.
I thought so myself.
So we're just really excited to obviously hear this story, you know,
Thank you.
of the boys. So Eliiot and Davis. So I don't want to get this wrong again. Is this Eliiot?
Yeah.
This here, yeah. And
Yeah.
Davis is out for the count now.
Yeah, he's chugging back now, so he is the milk, which is fantastic. So we'll just kind of go back to the beginning of when you guys met, and kind of be honest. Who was pursuing who?
Me.
Right. Okay. When was that? Like, how long? Like, was that a couple of years ago?
No. 2019.
2019.
No, 2020.
2020.
During
You're
lockdown,
20.
when everybody was bored.
Oh really?
Clearly,
And you were
yeah.
putting the graft in? Was it through text and all that?
No. I bought a projector off him and then he wouldn't leave me alone.
Oh jeez, the fatal mistake, Weeby.
And then obviously I was drinking too much wine and then this happened, you know.
The rest is history, as they say.
A little bit, yeah.
So how long were you together when you found out the news that you were pregnant?
11 months.
About a year,
Yeah, 11 months, yeah.
Okay.
Not that long.
That's not long,
No, it's
You're,
not.
You've got some good sperm, so you do.
I've got good eggs.
Exactly, it's a wee bit of both, isn't it? I guess that was it quite a surprise, was it? Or like,
Oh, yeah.
It was a shock.
Aye.
Yeah.
Big shock.
And then, like, so how far into your pregnancy were you when you actually found out you're pregnant? Were you quite early on?
About 8 weeks, I think.
Yeah, 8 weeks
must
or
have been
something
about
like
8
that.
weeks, yeah. Well, no, actually, that's not true. I thought it was about 7 weeks, but it turns out it was like 10 or 11 weeks
Right.
when we went for a scan.
Yeah.
So
So you kind of find out, you kind of have like the normal like symptoms, don't you? Like,
Yeah.
I obviously with my girlfriend just being pregnant, I kind of know all the kind of
Yeah.
the first 3 months
Yeah.
is mental with the
Horrendous.
certain stuff. So do you start getting that sort of stuff? Like, were you feeling sick and all that?
felt sick, obviously no period, felt sick, and then done a pregnancy test and it came back. But then, because I've got a kidney disease as well, I had high blood pressure, so they took us to Paisley, so we got an early scan done,
Right, okay.
and that's when we found out it was 2.
Yeah, I was about to say, so
Yeah.
this is when you find out you have 2,
Yeah.
it's like that first scan.
Yeah.
And what is your reaction when you find out you're like as twins? It's like, so how did they even tell you actually?
Oh, well, there's 2.
Did
no,
they
in
just-
fact, I said, is that 2 babies? And they were like, yes!
Oh
It's
my
like,
god, so you could see it straight away?
Yeah.
And he's like, could be a third in there. And I was like,
way.
no.
Triplets.
Yeah.
And then so like, whose side of the family does that come from?
Turns out it's both.
Aye.
Oh, really?
But
Yeah.
ages and ages ago though.
And did you have any idea,
No.
like, that
Nothing.
your family's even had that at all?
No.
I did, because I think it's my dad's family that I've got twins in it, I'm sure. I might have that wrong, but
But I
think
guess
it
you
is.
hadn't thought for a second that that could be a possibility.
No.
Because you have one already, don't
Yeah.
you? You've got a son already.
Yeah, Harris.
Harris, yeah. And how old is Harris?
8.
8. So it's quite a bit of time, like, between,
Huge.
obviously, you know, and I guess if you're not thinking about twins at all, you know, it must come as quite a shock. So
Aye.
what he's thinking once he's hear that, he's just...
Just had to kind of get on with it.
I know. There's
Aye.
nothing you can do about it.
Just got on with life, really.
Aye.
Yeah,
Seems-
pretty much.
Is the pregnancy any different with twins as it
Yes.
is? Because obviously that's why I was saying that you've obviously got a son before.
Yeah.
You've kind of been through the pregnancy journey before. How
Big-
was your first pregnancy?
Horrendous. Sick every day for a whole 9 months.
Really?
Yeah, it's like
Was-
being at the party you've never attended.
Really?
Yes.
That's unbelievable. And there's a name for that, isn't there? Like being sick all the time, isn't there? There
yeah,
is like...
is it, oh God, I can't remember.
I wouldn't even know what it is,
now
but
that.
like I
But
think
yeah, it wasn't bad enough to be put onto like a drip or anything because you're still putting on weight, so it was fine. The
Aye.
babies were fine, but yeah, it's like having the hangover to the party you weren't at.
that's mental.
Yeah.
And then so how was like so you were saying there was definitely a difference between
Huge
obviously
difference,
Harris
yeah.
and the
Massive
twins.
difference.
What sort of stuff's like different?
So, well, there's 2 for starters,
Yeah.
and then obviously with my health condition, there was more checkups, there was loads more appointments. The blood pressure was really bad from the start, so everything in general was just bad, but the sickness was so bad this time.
To another level?
Yeah, to another level. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
horrendous, and it was all day.
Really?
Not even just the morning. Yeah, in fact, mainly at night. Night time,
jeez.
and the
That's
tiredness.
goes against the whole morning sickness thing,
yeah,
doesn't it? Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? So
The
it's not-
tiredness as well was horrendous.
And like, so see from the get-go, if you've got all this stuff, like, and you're having twins, do they set up, like, okay, you're going to need to be monitored
Yeah.
more closely from the get-go?
Yeah,
or,
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, what sort of stuff were you coming in for? Just kind of like, is it every, like, because normally what, you get was that a 12-week?
12,
A
20,
20,
and then
that's it really, isn't it?
Really.
It's
So
quite
we were
mental.
scanned every 2 weeks.
Aye.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And is that just formality with twins, or is that because of all this other stuff?
A bit of both, to be honest. With Harris, I think it was every 4 to 6 weeks, but because there was 2 of them, it was every 2 weeks. And then we always knew they were coming early, not quite as early, right enough,
No.
but we were always told so. And this time as well, the last time, although it was a consultant-led pregnancy, I'd never seen a consultant, whereas this time, it was her that scanned me every time we were
Okay,
there.
so it was a consultant
yeah,
from the
she
get-go.
done the scan from the get-go, yeah.
And so it is actually, like, is it an actual thing that twins would normally come early? So is like...
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
not obviously as
normal
early
for
as
them I think they like to get into 37 weeks. Like 36 or 37 weeks is ideal, and then they would talk about probably either inducing or taking them out, unless you could go further.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's many women that take them to 40 weeks.
Yeah, did they do that just in case they get too big?
I think it's just because they're too big, and it can cause a lot of problems, I think, for the babies and the mother, obviously. But generally, it's between kind of 34 to 37 weeks they would try and take them out. But obviously, you'd have everything, all your injections for their lungs and everything by then. So
Yeah, so there's quite a difference between
Yeah.
having
Aye.
twins and just like a normal
yeah,
baby.
Yeah.
Big difference.
I'm guessing so. Yeah, nobody was expecting
Nothing.
these twins to come at 27 weeks though. So like, what was the lead up to, like, even like a first cut, like maybe like see the couple of weeks before it or something? Where are you starting to get like signs that something might be going almost wrong, or they might be coming even earlier?
Not really.
Nothing really different.
Nah, I think I always said end of July. I had it in my head that they were coming on the 29th of August. Or
And
the
what
end
would
of
that have
July.
made them?
The 29th of August would have made them 32 weeks, but the 29th of July was the 27 weeks, so they'd have been 30 odd weeks by the end of August. But
You had an
I
idea.
had 29 in my head for some reason.
That's crazy.
I know.
So see the morning of this happening, like so the morning that like this all unfolded. Well, I don't actually know what time it was, but like see the day that it all started unfolding. What did like just the beginning of the day look like for you? Just on.
Normal.
Well, you went in the night before. That's when you get rushed over.
No, that day though, you got up to work. I was in work the day before, and it was when it was really hot weather. So my feet were swelling up, and I was like, oh, it must be the weather. There's 2 babies in there. I'm starting to go on a wee bit. I never really thought anything of it. So I was in the work. And then the next day, Matthew went to work as normal, and then my sister was down, so I went for some lunch with her. I done some hair in the morning for folk. Went for lunch down at Walker's with my sister, and that I just didn't feel right though.
Yeah,
just did
really?
not feel right. Yeah, the whole day.
So you're just feeling a bit off, and then
A bit off.
so what did you do? Did you go up to the hospital, like just the local Dunoon hospital?
No, because we were in bed that night and it was like 3 in the morning. The two of us are watching Grey's Anatomy. I said to Matthew, I really don't feel well. I feel really sick. And he's like, for God's sake, just phone the hospital. I said, I'm not phoning them. I think it'll be okay. But then I started to be really sick, and then my hands started to swell. My face is starting to swell. I had no bags or anything ready. So the two of us were rustling about on the phone to the midwives down there to go down to the hospital. So eventually it must have been about 3:30. We got down to Dunoon Hospital and they took us in there.
Jeez, so that's like the symptom you were getting, the swelling.
Yeah,
right,
so it was pre-eclampsia that was starting to set in. But I just thought it was because it was hot weather.
Yeah.
So you don't want to bother people if you're swelling up. But when I knew when my head started to hurt and I was being sick, I was like, nah.
It's pre-eclampsia where like, does organs not start shutting down or something
they
like that?
can start shutting down, so it's to do with your blood pressure, and obviously because mine was high anyway, but that doesn't mean you'll end up with pre-eclampsia. But with 2 babies, after kind of 28 weeks, that's when it can start to creep in a wee bit. So the swelling is just, it's the hot weather, but as soon as I started to feel sick, and then the headaches, that's one of the signs of it, is the headaches, and they can get it under control if it's caught early enough, but unfortunately for us it was not caught early enough. No.
Okay, so you said like, so the thing was, you like, I guess you just rushed up to Dunoon Hospital, just the local hospital, and what what are they saying to it when you get there?
Just kind of had to leave her. I wasn't allowed in.
Yeah.
Do you take yourself up there? Does an
Yeah,
ambulance come and get
no.
you?
We took myself. Matthew dropped me down, and then he had to leave, and then
They're not
obviously
allowed me in for anything.
they're not allowed in. So the midwives up there then took us to casualty because she wanted a doctor to be there because the blood pressure was so bad.
Really?
Yeah.
It was mad.
And then were you not allowed in because of the whole COVID thing?
Because of the COVID and...
I don't know why else you weren't allowed in. I can't even remember why.
How soon, like, into that hospital appointment did you realise that things were quite serious?
When we were getting taken down to casualty.
Right, okay, but they just, so you got there, and what did they tell you?
Well, the casualty was a bit like, why is she here? This is maternity, this isn't to do. She's like, the blood pressure's too high, I want a doctor to be here until we find out what to do. So it was all a bit of a chaos for maybe an hour.
Yeah.
I think it was about an hour. Backwards and forwards, phoning Paisley, then phoning consultants, but the consultant I had was actually on holiday that week, so she wasn't available.
Timing, innit? That's always the case, it's always the timing.
So she wasn't available, and then it was just a bit chaotic, wasn't it?
Because I had to wait for that phone call as well to obviously get the bag in that brought back down, so I wasn't allowed in to give her the bag.
Really?
Had you just prepared beforehand, like, for an emergency, or was it just like...
Well, I'd been preparing for emergency, but Matthew's like, stop it, you're being negative about this. I was like, no, I'm not. I had this feeling 28 weeks. So the day after, my sister and I were actually going to go and get a bag and get everything organised. And because I had an appointment.
Sounds like you did have like like some sort of premonition of it anyway, you know, like a gut idea.
But I had nothing ready, like absolutely nothing. I don't even know what we flung in a bag.
Yeah. So obviously for people that probably don't know, like Dunoon Hospital is quite a small hospital. They like obviously they've got maternity wards, but they don't do like emergency things. They don't do C-sections. They can't certain things that they're not able to do. Yeah. So I guess it's like 3-4 o'clock in the morning at this point. Is it?
Yeah.
They're pretty on the ball though.
They're now having to rush you over to Paisley. How did they? Was it by boat or something like that?
Ferry. So they put the ferry on. An ambulance came. Matthew wasn't allowed in the ambulance, but at this point as well, they didn't know they were going to deliver the babies, so he went home.
They're thinking it's just something that they could maybe still stabilise you with, but perhaps maybe up in Paisley or something like that.
Yeah.
And so you're still haven't got no idea what you're up to. Like.
No.
Didn't have a clue until I went up the next morning. I got to Paisley at 9 o'clock in the morning, and she was getting carted out into an ambulance to go back to
Queen Elizabeth.
So what did they find out up in Paisley then?
So Paisley aren't allowed to deliver, well they are allowed to deliver premature babies, but anything under 28 weeks has to go up to the Queen Elizabeth because they've got a better and bigger ward unit, I suppose, up there.
It's like in a newer hospital, isn't it?
Yeah, I think their neonatal unit's slightly more advanced for very premature babies.
So what point did you find out that, because obviously by the time on the way up to Paisley you weren't thinking that these babies were coming, you just thought it would maybe be something that was just going to, you were going to settle yourself. Mm-hmm. When did you find out that these babies need to be delivered?
Like an hour before they were taken out.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And what's the thoughts going around your head there?
Well, you're on your own, so there's nobody there. Phoning my mum and that, obviously, and then telling them, I think the babies will come, and then the doctors are saying, oh no, we might be able to fix this, and then all of a sudden they were like, we're taking them out in an hour, get gowned up, where's your partner? It was very quick.
And what was the main reason for that? Did they say like
the pre-eclampsia was just too far?
I think once obviously Davis hadn't grown either.
He hadn't grown either for about 3 weeks, so he was still very small.
Right, okay.
So I think they just decided between them all, just enough's enough.
So you another transportation to the Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And by this point, are you there? Have you managed to get there by this point?
Because I just literally arrived to Paisley, because that's where I thought we were going to have them.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I got to the door, she was getting taken out the door.
That's mental.
And I was like, oh well, hospital.
Right. Next one on the journey.
Yeah.
And so how did the C-section? Was that a C-section then?
Yeah.
How did that process go? Like.
Well, first we were in the high dependency unit. They kept me in there, so because the babies were so early, I didn't realise that a lot of people didn't know what I was talking about, but they put this magnesium sulfate through your body, and honestly I cannot describe it as anything other than hell on earth burning through your body. It's the worst pain that I think I've ever felt, but it's to do with being able to stabilise the babies a little bit, I think.
Right.
I read up on it a couple of weeks ago because I thought nobody has a clue what I'm talking about, but somebody who's a nurse said to me it's because the babies were so early, but it's like the exorcist wants to come out of you because it's so burning that you're just puking everywhere, and then they take you down to the C-section bit where the theatre, but because of the kidney condition I've got, there was a team of doctors for myself, and then obviously you've got a team for each baby, and then you've got like the anaesthetists and then all the other teams, so there must have been about 35 folk in the room.
So they're on the ball.
Yeah.
They were prepared.
It was like a busy room.
It was very busy. It's like
like
a lot of people. I think that's the most people we'd seen in one place for nearly 2 years practically.
That's quite amazing how quick you've managed to get from Dunoon Hospital to Paisley. Then
in the space out.
Well, less than a 12-hour period, and have all those consultants, and then a renal team and teams for the babies, all the incubators for the neonatal wards was all set
That's
up.
amazing.
So everybody was there. I mean, the hospital staff are amazing.
Yeah.
Like really on the ball, but it was terrifying because I'd never been for an operation before, so.
Right, so you never.
No, never. And then the guys at work won't sedate me to get an implant because my blood pressure. So instantly I'm like that. Yeah. I'm like that. Oh God, they're going to cut me open. I'm going to die here. It was terrifying.
So you've got a lot of different feelings. And then also, what are the midwives and doctors saying about the babies at this point? What are they like? So they're saying we're going to bring them out, but obviously you probably know at this point it's really early. So what are they saying anything about the the babies at this point?
When Eliiot got taken out, I think they were trying to. I think he was too low down or too high up?
I don't have no idea.
I think it was. I think he was up here, more or less, but he was still in his bag.
Right.
So when he was born, he still came out.
I was still in his sack.
And his wee sack.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they basically were like to me, do you want to look at that? And I was, what do you mean, like, look at the inside of a human? And they're like, no, your baby's in the sack still. And you literally pulled it out, and he was still all in this wee bag.
So you looked over the curtain?
Aye, which you're not allowed to, but
that's amazing.
They wanted me to see it.
Aye.
So it doesn't happen often.
I seen the whole inside of her stomach at the
same
time.
Okay, so you're definitely
wedged open,
scarred for life now.
The one time he did not have his phone to hand to take a picture.
Nobody, because obviously you're in the theatre, so you're not meant to have your phone or anything like that.
You're all gowned up.
You don't have any trousers and that on, so basically you've got no pockets for anything, and not one of them had a phone either. I
bet that was a sight.
They were all like, wow.
How amazing though, that must have been pretty amazing seeing them in the sack still, like that's really cool. Like I've seen it online before.
It's like buying one of them aliens in an egg. That's what it looked like, and then as soon as they
Did you see them bursting it? Did you see them?
Yeah, they just literally break the back. It's like a water balloon.
That's mad.
Just pop it and they pull the baby out, and then that was him. 10 seconds later, man, he's breathing and crying.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's amazing.
I mean?
That's amazing.
It was an experience.
Yeah, so obviously they had everyone on hand for this C-section, and like, did it go reasonably to plan, like in terms of getting them out? Then obviously, if they were in a different,
everything went smoothly, man. That's what all the nurses and that were saying, and all the doctors and that. Like, it was straightforward. Mm-hmm. What was it like? In the space of what?
3 minutes, the two of them were out.
And then
so probably all in, we're probably in there for maybe 15-20 minutes, and then we were back out.
That's unbelievable, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That's unbelievable.
What was your reaction to seeing them for the first time, like how small they were?
Scary,
yeah.
There was nothing to them.
Really? What weights were they?
1, 6 and 2, 4.
Jeez.
1, 6. What's the typical weight of like a normal
about
baby?
£8 maybe?
8
pounds, yeah.
Basically, they were like
about the size they are now. So that's normal weight.
£4 combined.
Aye.
Yeah.
No way, that's
Yeah.
insane.
No, that is insane.
So it's-
And then so like, I guess they've managed to do like this massive thing in terms of, okay, there's been a rush to get the babies out. See, at that point, what is happening? So if you've managed to see the babies at all, if you've managed to hold
Aye,
the
they let
babies.
us
Yeah,
hold
they
them
let
and
us
stuff
hold
like
them,
that, but it's like one of them ones though, they were just wanting to let us quickly see them and then get them straight back in, because obviously they needed that heat and stuff like that, because as soon as they get done, that was them under that infrared light.
So they get like, so they what part of the hospital is that they go to again? Is
The
it called?
neonatal
The
ward.
neonatal.
Yeah.
And then so they just need to take them from you
Aye,
and
that was
go and
it.
look after them.
And then we
Yeah.
basically went back to the
Did
room.
not walk
aye.
anywhere,
sat
but
there
yeah,
walking
we walked
I
back.
was about to say, yeah, after that, I was about to say, what kind of operation is this? You just walking, strolling
I'm
back
pretty
to
sure
the...
Matthew thinks I can
Aye.
walk after it, but no, it did not happen
Now we
like
went
that.
back up to the ward,
No.
and then basically.
What are
it was
you
just-
thinking at that point? Like, so how are you feeling?
Oh,
Like,
I
obviously
was
yourself,
Totally morphined. I have no
Didn't know
idea.
where you were.
No.
can you hardly remember anything from that? Like, or is it
No,
just
I
you
can
were
remember quite a lot, but I thought I was okay, but I actually wasn't that okay. I think my liver and kidneys started to fail, so I was still in the high dependency ward for a couple of days, but they're just pumping morphine into you, I think is it the morphine tablets as well, trying to get you up to go to the toilet, but you don't wake up. It's a bit of a blur, to be honest,
Yeah.
but yeah.
and you're kind of holding the fort, like at this point.
Just try to keep my head in the game, aye.
Aye.
It
What were
wasn't
your thoughts?
easy.
Obviously, you've now got a girlfriend that's like pretty unwell, I guess.
And then
Like,
you've got two kids.
and you've now got
Aye,
babies that are now like in high dependency.
that you're
Yeah.
just trying
And I
to-
guess like it's probably one of these really weird things where like pregnancy and birth's meant to be this really happy
Oh,
time, they say, and all that sort of stuff, and it's euphoric.
It wasn't
and
a happy. It wasn't like one of them happy moments. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You're in a panic still. You know what I
You're
mean?
still
You're
obviously
still trying to
concerned,
wake up.
aye.
It feels like a big dream at the end of the day. But
yeah.
even still, I was still
Aye.
thinking to myself, I've got two kids. You know what I mean?
How they grew up
Yeah.
fast.
I know. Crazy.
But yeah,
He's amazing, honestly.
It was amazing, man. Though it's just
It's I bet it was just like you probably had so much different stuff going through your head in terms of okay, what's happening with
still
them,
in the shock
what's
that it was
happening
still
with
two
Kym, like-
in there. You know what I mean? And then you see them. You're like, wow.
So like this has all happened. What is like what does the landscape look like? What is the situation with yourself at this point, and what's the situation with the babies? Like, so it's just happened the day after. Like you're just saying, did some of your organs start like feeling like what kind of situation were you in?
Well, it obviously was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I thought I was just in high dependency because I had sick babies.
Yeah,
And it was great though. You get proper cups of tea. The nurses look after
good
you.
food.
It's like the Ritz
Aye.
down there. It's brilliant. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's great. 2 to a room.
Aye.
It's wonderful.
ah,
I
nice,
recommend
nice.
it for anybody.
And so what like so obviously you thought you were fine, but what was the doctor saying was wrong with you?
Well, eventually they came in and said I had to stop taking paracetamol because my liver was failing. And then with my kidneys as well, they started to shut down. So God knows what else they were pumping into it. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I just was on drips. I had cannulas in my hands. There was a thing in my vein, like one of my main arteries sewn onto my arm.
Aye.
There was cannulas in here.
You
And
still like what
a
do you call it? A wee
catheter,
thing, a cushion
yeah,
in it.
or that, a catheter that you pee in.
A
And
test
I was like,
dummy.
this is horrendous.
Aye, not your finest moment.
No,
Aye.
it's not my finest moment, no.
And like, how do you feel about like you've just given birth, you've got babies now? Like, are you able to process that at all at this point? Like, are
No.
you too busy having to look after yourself, almost making sure that you're okay? You know,
Oh, I
like
think I was just on our planet.
Aye.
Like, in all honesty, I thought this is wonderful, and we went up to see the babies.
I get the joys of the wheelchair
The
run
wheelchair.
right along the ward.
But,
you doing
Aye.
wheelies now? Aye, so I was
Aye.
like,
I think it was too soon though, because as soon as we got there, I nearly collapsed up the road, and they're like, "Take her away. We deal with children. We don't know what to
Really?
do with her." Yeah.
Aye,
It was
no.
really it was really sick, like really sick. Thought you're all right, but you just want to see your children,
Yeah.
and then you realise you're not actually that okay.
so yeah, you go and see them, and then
Mm-hmm.
what kind of condition were Davis and Eliot in?
It's one of them ones that was kind of hard to don't know, well, obviously you've seen your own kid obviously being born, but they were like that in an incubator, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was like 2 wee tiny, it's like looking at a puppy for the first time being born,
Yeah, it's
just
like
wrinkly skin and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And you're like, wow. And then they've got pipes and tubes all over the
Masks,
place.
hats, things all wrapped around them, like
You couldn't
loads
really
of stuff
you couldn't
coming
really even
out.
look at your kid because there was that
Yeah.
much attached to them, if you know what I mean. So
You couldn't see their face. It was all covered over by like ventilators, and then these masks for their
Aye.
eyes, and then cap things on them, and then the nappies like
And the
were the size
nappies
of a
were
bank card. They were like
huge,
this
aye.
small,
That was the size of the
like
nappies.
tiny. So you couldn't actually see your own. You could see their wee fingers and hands, but other than that, But they
Nothing.
had cannulas and stuff on
They just
them
had
as
everything
well,
in to keep them alive. So it was,
yeah, and then they're wrapped literally in bubble wrap. They wrap them in bubble wrap to keep them warm.
Aye.
wow,
Yeah,
that's honestly
so you
insane.
go up and your children are wrapped in plastic pretty much.
They tell you that's not safe.
I know. Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
Don't
What-
try
what-
this at home.
What are the doctors saying at this point? Are they like saying they're going to be okay? They're going to make it through?
Did they give you kind of like a?
They don't really give you very much.
Nah.
They're probably not allowed to
in a
say too
bad
much,
way.
are
I
they?
think probably not to get your hopes up. Like we were, I think because I knew that I had a feeling they were coming early. I'd kind of known that we were going to be put in this situation. Like I knew that we were going to be there, but it doesn't prepare you for
You maybe
it.
just weren't expecting it to be that early and to be so
No,
small
no,
and
it's like
to be
so
that
small,
kind of rushed.
Yeah. And see through. They were literally see through. So when you've seen them like that,
Are they not able to, like at that point? Are they not able to open their eyes? They can't have light like on them and all that sort of stuff.
Covering their I don't think we've seen their face for about a week or something,
Aye.
10 days maybe.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So you're in the hospital, Matthew. I remember seeing you like you were literally going back and forward in the boat like every single night, wasn't it?
Every day and every night, yeah.
And you're still
Just-
trying to keep like
Just
working and
trying
all
to
that
keep
sort of stuff
everything
as
going
well.
at the same time, mate. Aye, but it wasn't easy, but it had to be done.
How long was it before like you started feeling a wee bit better? Like how were you unwell for quite a while?
I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, so that's quite a long time after having a baby, especially when you're on a ward, like the maternity ward, without your children. So you're having to go up and down and see them every day as well. So that in itself was quite hard. And then obviously because it was a section, the nurses don't, it's not that they don't look after you, they do, but they're not there to wait on your hand and foot. So you're having to do a lot for yourself, which is fine. But then it's like times when Matthew wasn't able to come up till, because you only got certain visit hours. So when he wasn't there, if I wanted to go see the kids, I had to get a nurse to wheel me up or try and walk there myself. So you were quite debilitated to how much you could actually see your kids in the hospital.
Yeah.
And then with the blood pressure as well, if the doctor wanted to check you over, you weren't allowed to leave the ward until he'd been and stuff. So you weren't actually, although you were close to your kids, you couldn't actually just see them when you wanted to see them. It would have been better. It was easier when we weren't actually at the hospital.
There's no free range when you're in the ward.
No.
Right, okay.
No,
Nah, makes
you're kind of
sense.
stuck on there a little bit, so it was quite difficult. But in terms of feeling better, God, a while. I think it was a wee while. Yeah.
Was it a reasonably straightforward like recovery for you, or was there ups and downs?
I found it quite hard actually. It says a C-section's an easy way out. Like I found it really hard. The recovery was quite difficult. It was painful. Like you forget it cut through your whole
major,
body.
like that's what they say. They say it's major abdominal surgery. You know, they go through some amount of different layers.
Amongst that, with your organs starting to fail and feeling crappy as well, I found it was quite difficult. Even some days, though, I find the scars still really sore. But I think that's just the healing process of it. But as in terms of feeling better, I think with my kidneys and stuff, it maybe took about 4 or 5 weeks for that to get better.
Right.
And after that, obviously, it was just every day, just take it as it was. Yeah.
So see, with obviously having the twins out, do the doctors start like giving you sort of like milestones? So these are certain things we need to hit. So like we need to get to the point where they can do this. We need to get to the point where they can do that. Like, do they start giving you some sort of process? This is the plan of moving forward type thing.
It was, well, we still have to, it's like their eyes and that still all get kind of tested and stuff like that. But
like in the hospital, they get checked over. It was every 2 weeks the guy came and checked their eyes. The consultants were around every day checking them, so it's just every day, but every hour up there is different. It's not even a day. Sometimes
so it's like hour to hour, you're getting like good news and bad news.
Sometimes message, how's the boys? And I'm like, they're great. And then by the time Matthew comes, he's like, oh, one of them stopped breathing. She's like, I thought they were doing okay. And I was like, well, they were at that point. But so it's very up and down. The whole process of them being like in the ICU is up, down, and it's like that every hour. Yeah.
Yes, it was like that time. It was like the week before we get told that we were going to go home. We get moved into the ward to go home. So you go from the Hilton to the Holiday Inn. That's basically what it was like. And then, what was it, a couple of days later, we're back in the ICU ward again because one of them wasn't well. So they take them both back through.
Right, okay.
Just so they're together,
So
basically.
so even just going through that, what was some of like what were some of the highs and lows in terms of the process? You know, like so. I guess you were hitting some milestones where I guess they would be able to maybe come to your room for the first time type thing, or
well,
you'd be able to
no,
hold
we
them.
weren't even allowed them out the ICU at all.
You've never?
Nah, never allowed them. Nobody could visit them. The only people that seen them were Matthew and I. Harris wasn't allowed to see the babies. Like it was just really, really hard. And then they were in the ICU for pretty much the full 12 weeks that they were in for. But the good thing is obviously getting them out for the first time. But I think it was a week before we could. No, in fact, that's not true. Eliiot was a week before he was allowed out to be cuddled.
Aye.
But the smaller one was allowed out after like 2 days or
Right,
something.
okay.
But it's like they fitted there. That was it.
That's
They put them in your
crazy.
bra. And that's
I remember
it.
seeing, honestly, I remember
Yeah.
seeing the photos on
Yeah,
Instagram.
they're so
And then there was
tiny.
also a time that was like your first time you were able to change them and all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff as well.
Yeah, changing them and then feeding them through a tube. But there was days you'd go and visit them at the hospital and they weren't allowed out. So
Right.
you were just kind of sitting there, but you don't want to be away from there.
Mm-hmm.
But you've also got a kid at home that you have to look after as well. So it was like a pull between where you should be at and stuff. So it was
Aye.
very, the most surreal feeling.
Well, it was like when we were getting them transported back, because obviously we were only in the Queen Elizabeth for like a month. So when we get transferred back to Paisley, it was a weird setup because they can't do both in the one ambulance. They've got to do one kid at a time.
Oh, really?
So we had transferred one back over, and then they couldn't do a transfer that same day because an emergency happened.
So how-
one kid was at one hospital, one was at the other, and we could only visit one.
Oh, that's pretty random.
I
That's
know.
mad, that, isn't
So
it?
we had
That's-
one night basically where one kid was on their own. with
Yeah,
you know
no,
what I
that
mean?
must not have felt
So-
nice, like
No.
knowing that they were
It
by
was-
themselves there. And like, so what was like? Obviously, something you've got some of the highs there in terms of it was good to be able to get them out for the first time, be able to change them for the first time, maybe feeding them through a tube for the first time. What was? Can you remember any like specific setbacks that you had where you were like, okay, this is going good, and then like you would get a news where okay, this is a like, do you know? Can you remember certain setbacks?
Just really with their breathing and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
Was that the main thing?
It's
the
like
lungs was
you wouldn't
definitely the main
expect the
thing.
smallest one to be the quicker healer. Like he didn't have to come home on anything, you know what I mean? But with Eliot's whole breathing thing, he was on oxygen for ages.
He's only just came off the oxygen
Yeah.
before Christmas.
Really?
Yeah, we had to take
Aye.
it home with us, so he's only just off the oxygen. But I think the worst thing as well is leaving them in the hospital.
Yeah, I was about to say that. So it's like obviously you got to the point where you were able to go home,
Yeah,
and I guess they had to stay in.
Aye.
So
Yeah.
like, I mean, what's that feeling like?
horrendous.
It's not nice, especially when you're leaving the hospital without your kids, but your partner's with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you go in there, you like. I mean, it's back to the thing of giving birth. It's like meant to be this experience where you go in. Okay, we're not leaving that hospital, and
Aye.
we're leaving the hospital as a four now. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, we're very lucky that we always knew they were coming out, so that's like always a plus. But it was just a long process, and then coming home for the first night without them, it was so weird.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
can imagine.
It's not
Yeah.
even that. The hospital's draining as well. You know what I mean? You're travelling up there and you're there all day. Then you're travelling back home at night. It feels like a full day of work basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Was there
But
any point in the process that you were scared of any of them not making it at all? Was there any part of the process,
No.
like obviously, was it really important just to stay positive through the whole thing? Like
just try
Yeah.
not
what
to
was the
think
frame of
about
mind?
The negatives. That was the way I was kind of trying not to, because every time we thought about it, we're like, that's just
It's not a
stupid.
possibility.
Yeah, I never thought that they wouldn't make it, but
Just
I
thought they
always
would have
had
complications.
what if there's something wrong with them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, once
Okay.
we got over the hurdle of them, I mean, at one point he had to get a blood transfusion and stuff, but even at that, it didn't bother me that much. But the one thing was, what if there is something wrong with them? That
Yeah.
was always more in the back of your head than what if they don't make it, I think.
And how important was the support around you? Like, how important was it? Like, what kind of support system did you have around you? While you were in the hospital, you were going back and forward.
Just
Yeah.
it's all family, and even the nurses and the doctors were the
Yeah.
same. Like
Yeah.
you went to that ICU ward, man. It was like they were your family for that 3 months.
Ah,
Yeah.
really?
You
You know what I
actually
mean?
spent more time with them than you did your own.
You
So
could
had
speak
time.
to them and they would listen to you. You know what I mean? They wouldn't just walk by you, or they would come and take one while you're feeding the other one. You know what I mean? It was kind of quite good that way.
And do you think that was like a really important thing to have? Like, 'cause
Yeah.
clearly your both frame of
Aye.
minds were positive, really, really positive
Yeah.
throughout the entire thing. Was that probably a good reason why that was so
Yeah.
was so
Well, it
positive?
just goes to show you're not on your own. You know what I mean?
the
That's the only
nurses,
good
I
thing.
mean, you got to know them on a better level, and you spent more time with them in 3 months than you've seen your own friends and family.
Yeah.
I spent more time with the nurses there than I seen my own son as well. So
I bet you they like probably haven't had too many. Like, I mean, would they have had like what did they say when like they had like baby twins at 27? That's probably something that they don't see very often
surprised there
either.
wasn't that many
Nah,
premature
not
babies
really.
up in even the Glasgow hospital, because they do sick babies.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an intensive care unit for sick babies, not just tiny babies.
Yeah.
So I think between the like £1 and £1.6, I think that's the smallest babies they have. So they don't see, we didn't see that many of them either,
Yeah,
and
no,
certainly
not
not
many.
like that. It was like a rotation of babies in the ICU just coming up for like an injection and away again.
Yeah.
But I think we were the two that were there
You're almost
every
like
day.
famous. You're almost famous in that hospital.
Yeah, every day, 12 weeks, in and out, in and out. It
Aye,
was
no, that's
quite
good.
something, yeah.
It's good to have a good experience.
We were
with
getting
them.
that fed up of us, mind you, because they kept on going, "Are you still here?"
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, love to
Yeah.
go home. So, yeah, so obviously at this point then, you're home. It must be hard. But are you both able to go up every day to go and
Yep.
still see them?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then when do you get the news of when they're both able to come home?
It was very up and down, even till the
Aye.
day we brought them home. We
Did you
know.
keep given dates and they'd be taken away?
Aye.
A little bit, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, a milestone and then there'd be a setback. So that in itself.
What sort of thing would happen that there would be a setback? Is it
an
again just
infection or when they got their
Medication and
jags
stuff
or
like that, yeah.
like medications, antibiotics. Their oxygen stats not been great, you know. So it was very up and down.
are they waiting for like the perfect storm in terms of like they're waiting for a perfect day, almost like a good day for them to be like,
I think
okay,
it was
yeah,
really
okay.
all the consultants.
Yeah, and they have to be able to feed through a bottle before you take them home.
Right, okay.
You're not able to take them home, obviously, tube fed. So,
So what is the criteria to be able to get them home? What were they really looking for?
breathing on their own or with obviously not their CPAP stuff on them. So as long as they were on oxygen, that's fine because you can take that
Yep.
home. They had to feed by themselves and they had to also, was it a certain amount of toilet?
Aye.
I think like a certain amount of nappies and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So weight though wasn't a problem. So we'll say, oh, they have to be 5 pounds. But even at that, if they could do all the other 3 things, they would have sent them home. So
So what weight did you weight did they manage to get to?
He
Like maybe just
came-
before coming home.
he was just over 4
4.
pounds and Davis was just under 4 pounds.
Jeez, that's
But
still
he
it's
was
still
probably
small,
fat,
isn't
that
it?
was
You
a
know,
bit-
but
yeah.
I mean, it's a massive improvement though. You know, like
Huge.
that's crazy how they
Aye,
managed
from
to
what
get.
it was, it was big improvements.
And what did that feel like? So taking them home that day, like so how just talk us through that day of managing to finally get them home.
It was quite emotional because obviously you've spent so long with all the nurses and that, you know what I mean? It's like one of them ones, it's like a farewell kind of.
Yeah.
They're all standing at the door watching you leave that room.
I know,
You know
it's
what I mean?
quite
It
something.
was.
But even that though, we had to stay in a room with the babies for the first time. So they've got a room up in the ICU where it's like the sleepover room, so to speak, and the babies come in with you.
Ah.
So you spend like a sleepover for 2 nights with them, just so the nurses can see.
Is that just you, or is
Both
Matthew
of
there?
us.
No,
Both?
Matthew was allowed, yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
brilliant.
So
It's
it's
just
like
so they can keep
room,
an eye
double
on
bed, pretty much like a hotel, really.
No frisky business. Oh,
No.
can't.
No,
Sure.
no,
I'm sure,
not a chance.
I'm sure at that point definitely
No,
not.
definitely not.
Bet
But
you didn't
it's-
stop him trying.
yeah, no, sleep. He's always sleeping. It's too busy.
He was literally just saying before we come on, he literally sleeps like you. Listen, just go like
Aye.
that. And that's
Really,
it.
I'm
This
like,
was
Right
just
for
a
the
pot,
couch.
Right
bottle of luck.
before, aye.
Yeah,
Oh.
right moment. He was awake for 5 minutes. But no, so they
5
put you-
minutes,
aye, just 5. That's all it was. But they take you into this other room and then you stay with them for a couple of nights. So I think it's so they know that you're ready to take them
Yeah.
home. Really.
Aye, so it's like they're ready, but they want to make sure that yous are all
Yeah.
good and yous are kind of used to it. That's actually sounds like
Yeah.
a really, really good plan. Like,
Yeah,
that
it's quite good.
yous are having kind of like a full night with them and a full kind of day with them
Yeah.
where you're like, okay,
Plus
this
they
is
were
what.
still being monitored as well. They still had the wee monitors on.
Yeah. So
It must have definitely given you such a sense of relief that, like, throughout the entire process of them, like, obviously being born up until getting home, like, they're in the right hands. You know, like,
Aye.
like there was one time they were so short staffed up at the hospital. Like I wasn't scared for leaving my kids there. I was more scared for leaving the nurses that we didn't have any other parents to help with the kids because they're so good and they
It was like
spend.
one nurse and 10 kids, and all you just look at that big chart, and it's like, wow.
How are they
fair play
looking
to yous,
after?
man.
I couldn't look after 10 kids,
Feeding
so I don't know
rotation
how they're
times and
doing
everything.
it.
I was like, that's mad.
that's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah.
So did you like at all have in the back of your mind that like it's almost been a comfort having them look after these babies?
Yeah.
Like they obviously need the support. Was there ever in the back of your mind, like obviously I bet you were desperate to get them home, but were you like, oh, I'm a wee bit anxious about taking them home because we're taking away that other bit of support? Or
Not
We
really,
were,
I
but our
just-
families were.
I just
Really?
wanted
Yeah.
them
was it
home.
more your families that
Yeah,
were more like
yeah.
anxious? They
They're
didn't
like
have
that, they shouldn't really come out of hospital, should they? Well, they're coming out.
I know. Okay, the oxygen, we're not taking them anywhere, and
Yeah.
like, they were quite a wee bit more worried than probably we were. I think by the point of us being in there, we were just
Yeah.
desperate to get home.
I guess yous were in there, yous were seeing just how well they were being looked after, how well they're doing, and I
Yeah.
guess they're just taking like second hand information and they're
Uh-huh.
probably just all looking at it like, oh,
Well, we
you know,
were
just-
used to it though, because we were taking them out the incubators by ourselves with hoses and wires attached to them. You know what I mean? You hear that
Yeah.
machine go beep 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 beep, and you're
You see
looking.
your baby's heart stopping,
But
and then it
it's-
kick-starts
it's
again.
just-
So you get used.
Really?
Yeah.
You can just be sitting
Drops
there. You can just be sitting there with them because obviously there could be days you
So their
won't be able to
hearts can
touch
sometimes
them.
like stop.
Yeah.
Aye, and
Yeah,
then they would
stop
have to
breathing.
come over and rub them and get them going again.
And did you just get like almost numb to that? You just get used to
Pretty
that.
much.
Just used
Yeah.
to it, aye.
Became the norm.
Or it
Yeah.
drops right to 40 and then...
You could probably get a job in there now. Do you
shoots
know
back.
what I mean?
Oh,
It's
listen, you
like
could.
you
I
were
would
used
love
to it.
it.
She was
It was
making
great.
all our beds.
Brilliant. I'd nothing else to do.
Honestly, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, you just got used to it though.
Yeah.
So we are so used to them. But it's even now, particularly with Eliot, when he stops or like gags for a breath, everybody's like, "Oh my God, is he okay?" I'm like, "It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. We still
Aye.
die in the day. We're all right. We're good."
That's good. No,
I
that's
think
really, really
because
good.
we've had to watch them and then we've seen them coming off of all the machines and then be put back on and then be taken off them again and everything else. So for us, it's just like, meh,
Yeah.
it is what it is. Yeah.
So just back to obviously managing to get them home. So you've spent the 2 nights. Did they go like so? See those 2 nights as well. Did you need it to go to plan for them to still be able to come home? Like did
Aye,
they still need to
everything-
be healthy enough? And
everything
was
had
it
to
the
be
first
planned.
time? Was it the first 2 nights that
Yeah, we
he's managed to?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so was it just the morning you got told, yep, these are good to go today?
Wasn't they were
Was
still
it?
kind
They
of
were still
sussing
kinda
them
half
out.
and
Aye,
half in
it was
it, and
basically
then-
like whether or not it could be tomorrow, and then we need to wait and get this for you because they had to
We
come
hadn't
home with
had
hundreds of
oxygen.
medication and stuff like that. So it came to like 3 o'clock that day or something like that, and
Yeah.
we get told, "Alright, there you go. Come in with hundreds of bags of medication. What that shows you can go home now if you
Oh,
want."
that what was it? What was the feeling like that?
It was aye.
You
It
saying you were
was-
quite emotional?
Aye,
I was just wanting out that room.
Yeah.
You know what I
Never
mean?
packed your bag
days-
quicker.
I know.
2 days in the one room, man. It's not
Aye,
nice.
see.
Was that the day I seen you as well? Did I see you? Remember I seen you down at the
Eh,
Vendies in Paisley?
I think it
Was that the day
might
you were getting
have
home?
been, aye.
I think it was actually, yeah.
Aye.
I think so, yeah.
No, I must have felt like such a good day, man.
So,
It
aye,
was, yeah. It was very emotional. I was greeting.
Yeah, no, I can
Yeah,
imagine.
usual.
Did you get one of those pictures of like coming out the hospital?
Aye,
Everyone's
both
got to
did,
get
aye.
that,
The nurse
yeah.
took the picture for us, so
Oh,
it was
that's
quite good.
I know.
And so, so what was new? Like, so you's coming home. Obviously, they're not completely out the woods yet. So what's been expected of you? Like, what sort of stuff did you need to have set up and ready to go to now be able to look after these children at home?
We had to make sure we had oxygen.
Aye, we had
so
to get everything at home set up
So,
first.
sorry, who was it again that was on the oxygen? Was it
Eliiot.
Eliiot that was still
Yeah.
on the oxygen.
Yeah, so the company come and deliver the oxygen, but they ended up giving it to us in the car park at Paisley. so,
Are we dodgy deal going?
Yeah, it was so random. So I had to go home to drop the oxygen off, thinking, my God, I've got so much explosive stuff in the back of this car. If anybody hits me, that's it, I'm taken out. But that was
Were you
terrifying
driving?
me, yeah. I had about 8 canisters of oxygen in the car, and one of them was huge.
That's unbelievable.
And then they
mad.
ended up having to put an actual generator in the house that produced pure oxygen from the air. So we had loads of stuff like that to get done. And then a fire check had to be done to make sure everything was okay, because obviously it's very highly flammable.
Right.
But I mean, other than that...
And you already by this point kind of knew the routine. You
Yeah.
knew what routine it
just
would need
obviously
to go
being
in.
with them with all the hoses and the wires, but we're kind of used to that, you know what I mean? There was nothing different.
Yeah. At
Just
that point, were they
obviously-
within their beds most of the time, or were you still able to get them out? Like, so you've got them home. Are you able to take them walks or anything? Like,
I just had to unplug obviously the oxygen off the machines and then plug them back into a tank when we were out in the pram and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it was.
have you had any like? So obviously, since being home, have you had any like times that's like they've had to go back in? Like, there's been no setbacks. Has it just been literally striving, like
Pretty much,
Just
yeah.
aye.
They've done great.
getting better and better?
Even
Yeah.
off the oxygen, he's doing good. You know what I mean?
How long did it take for Eliot to come off the oxygen? Like being
8
home?
weeks. I think
it
it must have
was.
been 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
Yeah.
So quite a hard.
But they done a sleep study to get him off of it though. So they give you a machine down, and then then they take it away again, and then they monitor what he's been doing, and then that's
Just to
when
be
it's
machine
set.
it like is on him 24/7.
No, just
just
for
at night time when
night
he's
time.
sleeping.
Aye, it was for a couple of days,
Yeah,
wasn't
2
it?
days as well, yeah.
And is that because like was throughout the night did he stop
I
breathing
think
like quite a
it's during
lot?
the night
Aye.
when they stop. That's when you can get a better result. So they're not moving as much. So yeah.
No, that's amazing.
So
I
it
know.
was a good feeling.
What's the process like? What's the plan now? So it's like, how do you like how ongoing is like obviously the looking after them? Do you need like you were just saying before we came on air like you still need to go up like once a month?
Once a month for the RSV jags, which is like a respiratory infection that babies can get, particularly when they're very premature. I think a lot of kids do get it though, but because they were classed as chronic lung disease, they have to get it every month during the winter months for the first year that they're born. So I have to go to Inverclyde for that, and then the wee one, he needs to get his eyes checked again, so that's this month, but hopefully that'll be signed off. Then after that, it's just like normal checks, like you guys will get done. The only thing that's different is their development is
Right,
very
okay.
different because technically they're 5 months old.
Yeah, so
But
they're
they're-
maybe not doing what the 5 months old are meant to be doing
Ah.
yet because they were 3 months early, so
Yeah.
they're really only like 2 months.
Yeah, they're like 8
So
to
glad I
10
got
weeks
that maths
old.
right.
Yeah, they're about 8 or 10 weeks old technically now. So yeah,
It's
that's where it's a bit. It's not difficult, but
Yeah.
you kind of like, well,
I was about to say, like, see also on the way home, you know, you were driving.
Yeah.
I remember, like, honestly coming out from Paisley and it was like 5 o'clock when we get out, so it's like almost like rush hour.
aye.
And I've obviously got the missus that's just had like obviously a C-section.
I
I've
bet
got the
you
new
drove
baby.
really slow down that road, didn't you?
I was driving genuinely
Aye.
like 15 miles an hour, right? And
Not
everyone
like
was
nearly
just
100. No.
everyone was just beeping at me and having to go down. I was like, this is so stressful, man. Were you flying down the road, were you?
Nah, not when I had them.
Not when he had them, no, just when it was me and we were up and down visiting the hospital.
You've got the big family wagon as well now, don't
Aye.
you?
Yeah, well, he didn't have that car at that point. No.
Oh, did you not?
I thought it'd
No.
be fun to bring a mini that was so low to the frigging ground that you felt every speed bump.
Not the most practical.
No.
And then
No.
it was like the week before we got to take them home, we get crashed into.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Did you?
he crashed into us.
Some guy from Dubai in the Woodhall roundabout, man. He was in the outside
Did he have no idea?
lane,
'Cause
I
he
was
was
in the
like-
inside. He was trying to go right round the third exit, and I was trying to go off the second, and he freaking went right through the whole side of the car.
Good job.
On
you
the
weren't in
side that I
car
was
then.
on.
Well, aye.
Were you in the car at that point?
She was in it, and that was obviously when she just had the C-section.
Yeah,
she
lucky
was
we're just
still-
heading to the hospital anyway, so.
like, and then I was just lucky they weren't in the car, you know what I mean? Because then we would have had to have been properly going back to the hospital again to get them all
Yeah.
checked
Yeah.
over.
No, that's
I know.
crazy. And like, so are you like now? Are you quite confident in where they are? You know, like, are you? Do you feel as if you are like out of the woods now? You know, like, when did they say that? Okay, you are.
I don't know, you know, it's one of those things. I think with any babies though, like I think there's a lot of stuff that you can't detect in babies till they're like maybe 1, 2.
Right.
You know, when they're starting to develop, like trying to develop, and if they're not hitting those milestones now, I think that's where you would find out. But as that, I think that's from any baby really,
Yeah, I
not
think-
just the ones that are early. The only thing that the doctors and nurses up at the hospital had said to us is don't give them any like jumperoo things.
Right,
Don't
okay.
overstimulate them.
No
Don't
toys.
like very
Sure,
very.
you're
I
not.
know, no, it's great. We've got
Aye.
nothing in the house. It's wonderful.
Aye,
But because they've not been in the womb for so long, they can actually like flail, what they call it, which makes it look like they're really sturdy. So you tend to want to put them in these things, but it can actually cause them much more damage. So
I would never. Like, so that's something you would never have known, would it? Like to
No.
not like stimulate them with like toys and
Yeah.
obviously the
Yeah.
jumperoos and stuff as well.
Yeah.
So is that if they got a couple of things that you are still looking out for? That obviously I think you were just saying with Davis's eyes. Like,
Yeah.
is that just still something that you are looking to tick off?
Yeah, hopefully this month.
It's just the doctors just obviously, if he signed them off without that 100% vision again, then you wouldn't get that space back with looking at the eyes again, and you know what I mean, it would take months again to get them back into the slots.
Just with everything that's going on now as well. Like,
So he's like, I'm not signing them off right now. He says come back and I'll sign them off the next
It's
time.
good they
But
want
he
to be sure
knew
anyway.
it was alright because he'd said that, but he just wanted to be 110% sure.
aye, they didn't want to worry you or anything
Aye,
like
as soon
that.
as they sign that bit of paper and you're off that record, you've got nothing to do with that side of things again, you know what I mean? It'll probably
Yeah.
take months.
And how's your life changed now? Like, obviously the normal person's life changes by
Yes.
having like kids, but yous have generally had like 5 months of looking after twins that came ridiculously early, you know. So
Yeah.
like from what your life was before to now, like how's it changed?
Oh, mentally
Aye,
changed.
it's, everything changes.
It's
yeah.
like your whole like also like see through the
Just
whole
your whole
process.
mindset to it all, you know what I mean?
Aye.
You're waking up in the morning, you're like, right, I've got kids, you need to deal with them, and then you need to make sure everything's alright, you know what I mean, and then make sure that Kym's alright as well before you leave.
Yeah. How like oh, he's acting like he's the best boyfriend in the world now, and he's like, I always just make sure Kym, I give her a cup of coffee and all that, and just make
Well,
she's all good. And
5 o'clock in the morning wake up calls for alright, that's what I was
Like the
doing the
old
feed
girl
for
sitting
them,
over
man.
there.
is that when they're
Pulling
up?
my hair
Never
out
wake
like
up at 5 o'clock.
that. When they were.
When they were. Oh my god.
I now get an extra hour of sleep in the morning.
Are they identical twins, are they? Yeah.
No, I
We don't
think
know,
so.
we've never heard anything back.
They were born in separate sacs, but because they're the same sex, they said they could possibly still be, as like a 40% chance that they could be, but they're starting to look quite different now, I think. Although sometimes they do look very similar, I don't think they'll be identical.
No.
Nah. I
So what
don't
do
think
is the identical twins normally in the same sack? Is that
Same sack,
aye, so if
yeah.
they were
Yeah.
and you've seen one actually getting literally
Taken out the sack, yeah.
was it Davis, was it?
Aye.
Yeah, they were tiny.
So, see throughout that entire process, how like were you mentally? Like, see your like mental state. Like, I think you have said already, did you stayed reasonably like positive throughout the entire thing? Like, and how are you now? Like, he's recovered almost from that in terms of like, physically, obviously recovered, but
that shit.
mate, you don't take a second to think of it. And like, you've got obviously your house that you're doing. You've got so much going on just now. It's I guess it's keeping you quite busy as well.
It keeps the mind away from things.
It keeps Matthew's mind busy, but I'm at home with 2 children pulling my hair out. Then he comes in, I'll be home in 20 minutes, an hour later I'm like, will you take the bloody kids please?
Are you in the house yet?
No. We're in a 2-bedroom flat with 5 of us.
That can't be easy.
No, it's not. It's horrendous.
Mental,
but yeah, it's just really difficult. I suppose I'm so used to being my own person as well, and Harris is 8, so he's pretty independent.
It's been a wee while since you've had to deal with like newborns.
Yeah, and then having babies, like, no disrespect, there's 3 men in here, so I better be careful what I say, but you just get up and you go out. Like, you get up and you go to your work, that's it. And then you come home and then it's like, oh, the baby's lovely, everything's done, this is wonderful.
Get the good parts.
See that 8 to 10 hours in between? Chaos.
It's been mental.
Aye, chaos. Yeah.
Shit everywhere.
No day's the same. You can't get anything done. You have to take those kids everywhere with you. Like, they come everywhere. You never leave the house without anybody now, and that's it.
I think it's honestly absolutely amazing how like seeing them now is unbelievable just to see how far they've come along. Because I remember seeing the pictures like when you were first putting them on, you started like uploading quite quick, which was good. Like, it was amazing for like, was that for like family and friends and all that to be able to stay?
Friends, but also so you could remember, because you forget. You actually do forget.
Like, I even forget being in the hospital now.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a big blur.
Like a million miles away. So
that was the main motivation for like starting the Instagram and stuff as well. And then like, I guess for the next question, was it to also like help other people that go through the similar situation? Because I think like
see that it can be positive. Don't always don't look negative.
Because I think a lot of people that are pregnant and like maybe having twins or expecting people earlier, maybe just had a premature baby, like will definitely probably be watching this podcast like to hear maybe the story.
I also be able to think it's all fun, like it's lovely and it's really, which it is, it's so like rewarding, it's the best feeling in the whole world, but it's not always plain sailing. And remember that being pregnant, Matthew, stop being so negative. I said I have to be, because even though I'd prepared us to be in that situation, nothing really prepares you when you actually see it with your own eyes, and nothing prepares you for how you feel emotionally and mentally, because it changes like that every hour. So you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, but you're trying to put on a brave face because you've got family, friends, obviously work and other kids, so you're constantly at the back of your head just trying to like move forward with that, but at the same time you've got all this other stuff going on. So I think it's to make people aware, like it is lovely. And as much as everybody does such a great job to help out, sometimes there are just days where you're just like, when is this ever ending? And now it feels like a million miles away. Like
it was really, it's really good. You're really honest on your Instagram as well. It's like, okay, we've obviously, like I remember like a post she's put up and it was like we've obviously put on all the good stuff, but here's maybe some of the setbacks that we've had now, you know. So I think it was a really good idea to kind of have that one, because I guess you've probably got family all the time. Like you're going through all this, you've got family, but like how they getting on, you know. And it's like you don't want to see the negative, but you're keeping that.
Plus,
going.
I've got 2 aunties that are abroad as well. Plus, you've got an auntie abroad, so it's kind of good for them to see things as well.
Keep updated and all that sort of stuff.
Definitely keeps everybody updated.
So, see, for someone that's maybe just like, people won't be in the exact situation as you, you know, like yourself, pregnancies look crazy where it's like. It's different for everyone, but see people that are maybe in the same situation in terms of their babies in the ICU, you know, and like they're maybe in a certain situation, they're not the best for yourself. What's the sort of advice that you would give them? Is there any advice that you like throughout this entire process that you're thinking, that's the best way to be, or
just try and stay positive.
I guess it'd probably be quite easy in that situation to maybe start seeing the negatives, being like, oh my goodness, this is going to happen to them, you know, they need to do all this, you know. But like seeing you today, like it's crazy. Like I didn't expect, like you seemed like you were really positive throughout the entire process, like which was amazing.
I mean,
the more you think about it, the more you worry, you know what I mean? And if the more you worry, the more your brain just starts playing games with you. You're thinking what's happening tomorrow, you know what I mean? Instead of going, well, they're going to be there in the hospital, you know what I mean? So they're looked after. Is it looking at just like smaller milestones as well, just looking at the next thing, and like, you know, the next thing that's in front of you? Just baby steps, you know what I mean? There's no point in taking a leap in a bounce. No pun intended. Well done, man. I like that. That was good, man. Baby steps.
But yeah, I think it's just like, And that's the thing, everybody always says, you just make it look so easy. So you might be able to say to me, you make this look easy. I'm like, oh my God, if you only knew how batshit I actually am just now. Like Matthew will tell you, mental.
You see all the sides of it.
Try and leave the house early.
Yeah, and come home late, and I'm like, bah, all the time. And that's the thing, it's like when people say that, you'll make it look easy, it's not easy. Like, it's not easy at all. But if you don't get up and go on with it, you could sit in your house all day and just drive yourself demented. It's with one baby, never mind two. So I think that's it. Just if you get up, get on with it. And
what do you see for the future now? Like with
a nice house for a room each would be wonderful, and more than one bathroom would be great. But with the wee ones as well, it's just obviously moving them into a family home and stuff like that, you know, and it's been very, very busy. Like Matthew's very busy just now. And that in itself isn't easy. No. Like he's busy and then he's got me at home like that. When are you coming home? Because I'm going to lose my marbles. Like, and that in itself's hard. So hopefully once the house is finished and get back into some sort of
routine,
a bit more of a routine.
And do you think like hopefully like how long will they like Davis and Eliiot be having to go to the hospital now? It will be good, I guess, when you can.
3 years they said.
3 years, as long as that. So it's like every month for the first 3 years.
Well, for the injections only this winter. Sorry, but the consultants will see them. But I think it's every 6 months they want to see them.
So it's like it breaks up. It's not as if you are like the hospital all the time anymore. You know, it's definitely not feeling as if you are.
It's not a slog.
No. Well, see, what I was so surprised he's actually made it here on time today. You were actually like, spot on time. I'm late everywhere now that we've had, obviously.
Very good at this.
I was late before, but I'm even worse. I'm even worse now, man. I don't know what Michael did with this. He was literally just saying that you were late yesterday.
Two children out the house.
I know.
School run at 9 o'clock. Horrendous.
No, I bet.
He's planning on having more kids now?
No.
More twins, maybe?
No.
I've even started doing the school runs now.
It's
like daddy daycare, 9 o'clock.
You need a minibus, honestly.
Honest to God, it is. But no, there will be no more children from me. I mean, Matthew, I don't know about you, but definitely not me. That amount.
Aye. Two's enough.
Aye, definitely. Oh, I mean, going straight from, I guess, nothing for yourself, but obviously you've...
Yeah, well,
but like going...
with Harris as well, obviously, you know what I mean? But
and how's Harris with them? Have they like integrated well?
Ah, he's brand new.
Yeah, he's very good with
He helps look after them and all that, does he?
Yeah, he's
picks him up and walks him about the house now.
Yeah. He's on the fortnight with his friends. I've just got my brothers in with me. I'm like, you're dead cute. He's actually very good with them.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, he's a nice, kind boy. So.
No, it's a nice family. I can't believe how well they've been like in here as well. Do you know what I mean? Like he's been brilliant. And I mean, Davis is literally just down there chilling.
The only thing I don't know if he's still breathing. He's not moved.
He's good. He's still got colour. We're fine.
Too early to crack jokes, Matthew. Come on. But I think, like, honestly, thanks so much for coming on. I think,
welcome.
I think you coming on will definitely help other people that are in a similar situation. I know when we were like pregnant, obviously not me, but Sarah was pregnant. It's nice to hear other people's stories. You know, like, because I think we were quite shocked in just how like when you're pregnant, there's just you do sometimes just get so much different stuff to worry about. You know, and it's quite good to hear other people's stories of like hope and like. Things don't always go perfect like you were saying before.
Everybody else says it was lovely. I hated it every minute, both times. It doesn't mean that I don't like. This is great. But it just was hard. That sickness constantly, the tiredness constantly, having to do like all your other jobs constantly, and try to be happy all the time. And not lose your shit with your partner constantly as well. And nobody else will get it because your hormones are way up here. So you're like a totally different person. So it's not always fun and everything else, but it's worth it at the end of it.
And it's good. That's okay to not enjoy pregnancy is okay, which is I think it's a very good message.
No point kidding on about it.
Well, that's it. There's no point.
No, exactly.
It's wonderful because for everybody it's different. And even though I was sick, like you weren't sore or uncomfortable any other time. So it's like taking the good for the bad. And some people get really uncomfortable and sore, don't get the sickness. So it's just everybody's different, I suppose.
Oh, honestly, guys, it's been brilliant. I think that's. Thank you for coming on. That was. You're welcome. That wasn't too bad, was it?
No.
Honestly, sometimes when you get the headphones put on and then the camera's put on, it's just like. You just kind of freeze up and all that. And it's like obviously our first one back as well. Do you know what I mean? But it was a great one. So happy to have Ashes on. Honestly,
I'm
fantastic.
very glad they behaved themselves. I've trained them well.
Yeah, honestly, aye. Matthew's done well and all actually.
I know that routine is wonderful.
Aye. No, thanks very much, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.